Welcome, Anatomy of Movie fans. We're having a sausage party here in studio. That's right, we're here to spill the beans and fill your cup with knowledge. But don't worry, we'll cut the fat and get to the meat. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk, we talk movies. And now, here's Popcorn Talk's Anatomy of a Movie.
Take it away, Corn.
Dear God, you're so divine in each and every way.
That's right. Please join us in prayer.
Dear God,
as we start this morning.
our love to you forevermore.
And if there's one thing we know, this song is 100% true. We have Zach.
Food is praying? What part of this is true?
I forget what they say, but that none of this song, none of what they believe is in any way wrong.
Yes.
We have
be like accurate to life.
Yes. We have Zach Wilson
Hey,
finally
guys.
out of the booth.
Yeah. Hey guys, I'm Zach Wilson. You can find me on Twitter at that Zach Wilson.
You can actually shut it down because it's competing very loudly.
Something
Holy shit, I've been chosen!
And that's the moment where this movie went off the rails.
That's right. You know what? If there was any doubt as you watched this movie in the first minute, if you were in a kid's movie, you knew you weren't.
Yeah.
But we digress. We have Stephen Lemieux in the booth joining us today. Say hi, Stephen. Or not. This is going so wonderfully.
Can you not hear me? There we are.
There you are.
Oh, yeah, I'm here. Hi.
Welcome. And I'm Phil Svitek. Welcome to Anatomy of a Movie, where we dissect movies on a deep level. And, you know, we're here to talk about it. So we assume you've seen the movie, but if you haven't, you know what? It doesn't go that deep anyway. Well, technically it does.
I actually thought that was the thing that was most impressive about this movie, that it actually is fairly deep. Like there's a lot of deep thought that went into this,
but without solutions.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But that's almost part of what they're trying to say. Mm-hmm. But it was all the stuff around that.
So let's start there. Let's as we always do, let's get your quick thoughts. Zach Wilson.
I wanted to like this movie, and even after I saw it, I think about it more. Like, I want to really love this movie because there's a lot of pieces in there that I think are really good. But when I watched it, I just didn't enjoy it for about 75% of the time. Like, I just
It's almost only 75 minutes to begin with, so it's not that long.
I think that this movie strikes me as a movie that there was a much better version of at one point, because there's a lot of thought put in. It's not just a juvenile movie making crass jokes, although it does that too. It has a deeper message. The comedy just didn't land as much as I wanted it to.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I felt the same way. And my biggest fear going into this was actually realize I was like, okay, well, I know it can be funny, but eventually the ball's going to roll out of bounds. And I wonder how they're going to handle the ending, because you can't just kill all the humans. What's going to be the resolution of all of this? And my worst fear came to fruition was the fact that the ball did roll out of bounds. And there is no, as I said, there's no concrete solution. And I get that's also life. But you have to either kind of end a movie somewhat ambiguously. This was very ambiguous. Or give it at least a positive feeling or a sad feeling. One of the three has to be. And this was just kind of well, there it is.
Yeah, I didn't know how they were going to possibly end this. Since are humans going to stop eating the food and then starve to death?
You could have gone the vegan route of okay, just don't eat the animal products. I thought it could be preachy in that respect, and it was
But
okay.
the fruits and vegetables are just as alive as the sausages.
And the douche.
And the douche. And the toilet paper.
That's right.
In this universe, basically everything is alive.
That's why I did enjoy it, and I know they kind of based this a lot on Pixar and Toy Story and whatnot, and they kind of just stretched this to the most the outer limits, if you will. But it did get at times confusing. I was like, wait, so are the cars people too? Where do these inanimate objects stop being?
It also got more interesting. If you start to think too much about that, it gets real weird. Okay, so the potato chips bag
talks,
is
but not the
alive.
potato chips
And
themselves.
But there were times where it was like the Mentos package was alive, and then when he like sent out all the Mentos, each one of those was like a little soldier guy dropping in. So that meant that those guys were all fully aware and just like crammed inside of this other guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was the box of tea bags, like the tea bags were all alive? Was the box alive too?
I think so. You know, and
What is that relationship like between the tea bags and the box?
who knows? And then there's the couple of things that I've always said, and you know, many people have joked with me. How many parents are going to go bring their kids to this movie thinking it's a nice movie?
I've wondered that. I feel like they did enough, and like even like when I bought my ticket, it like the machine
Told you.
flashed and was like, "This is not a kids movie."
Well, there is I forget where the mess up was. It was like in one specific theater, but they played this trailer, the Red Band trailer of all things, in front of Finding Dory.
Yeah,
So that wasn't good. But
I love that story. Because you couldn't have asked like a Pixar audience. You couldn't have found a worse place. And that first trailer, the way it's built, where it starts out with like, oh, this is going to be a fun story about food that's alive.
Nope.
And then it turns.
Absolutely, and so the concept's good and whatnot.
It was here in California.
Was it?
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, it's been in development hell for a long time. And obviously, this is Seth Rogen's first animated feature, and whatnot. And so, I mean, they've had this since back. They started kind of joking about the concept back in 2007 with Superbad, saying, "What's your next movie?" Oh, it's Sausage Party, and it's kind of gone through that way, and whatnot. But the first, in terms of the world, the opening, let's talk about it because I do think it's important because if the opening doesn't land, none of this makes sense.
Yeah.
And you're not in the world.
I actually think that and this was sort of just the tone of the movie. I wish that they had spent some more time setting up the clean universe that they were living in before the turn. Like we heard in the opening, when the honey mustard just goes, "Holy shit, I've been chosen." It lost all the pretense of the kids movie, and I sort of wanted to play that game a little longer. Of that game of like, it's a kids movie, but we're gonna like make snide adult jokes until it like turns on its head. But like the instant it starts swearing, it's out the window.
Yeah, you're just done. I didn't mind that so much. I think, part of it was I really appreciate the fact that this movie's like literally 80-something minutes. Yeah. And so it's really short. And I appreciate it for that fact because it just kind of got in and out. It didn't, it wasn't trying to be much longer than that. And in this opening, you just know, again, to throw logic out the window. Once you start digging, and that's it kind of has that weird balance because, you are supposed to shut off your brain in many ways, and yet here it presents, Mexico, here it presents the Middle East and all these things. And so you're like, wait, am I supposed to just not think about these things? And yet here you are presenting these high concept things. And I think therein lies the problem with the comedy is that you don't know what to think. And to me, South Park does a great balance of that.
Yeah, I mean, you want these adult animated movies to have another level to them, not just like a bunch of fart jokes and dick jokes and things like in a row. And I love dick jokes. Dick jokes are great. But this movie, I felt like it was hitting on some fun world issues, like the whole thing with the lavash and the bagel, with the Israel-Palestine thing. When I think about that dynamic, that was great. It's a funny thing to like just call into question because you're using silly objects to talk about a very serious issue. But there was just something like Kareem Abdul-Lavash. Like, it's silly, but I feel like it was just like one step removed from a quality joke. Because all you've done is like take a famous Middle Eastern name and just put it wasn't even a sound alike. You just put a Middle Eastern food on the end of the name.
Yeah.
I don't know. It wasn't landing. And I think maybe it's because I saw this movie sober. I was no anything. I just went and saw it. And maybe that was my fault.
And maybe it is, but do you think, like, I always get very upset when, like, to enjoy this, there's plenty of comedies out there that are enjoyable without substance. And so therefore, if you're on any sort of, like, if you're drunk or if you're high, it just adds that much more to it.
Yeah. Well, I think the reason that I think this movie is sort of made for that audience that's under the influence of whatever your choice is, whether it's bath salts or bourbon, who knows? But it's because it's sort of just like a long string of jokes. The story is sort of secondary to just putting in silly things and silly moments. Because the story of being lost in the grocery store it's fine. It's nothing groundbreaking.
Well, it's fine, but I'll give him credit, it's a very defined goal.
Yes.
You know? And so there's no question of, even though the rest of the stuff is so ambiguous, it's like, okay, we know physically where we're trying to get to. And also the half-bitten sausage or the deformed sausage, like Michael Cera, we understand what his motive is too.
Yeah.
So it becomes simple in that regard, but I don't mind that.
It's sort of hard to describe because when I sat down to think about like getting my notes in order and everything to come in to do a review of this, all these pieces of it seem great when I think back to it, which is unusual. Usually the more I think about a comedy, it like can get worse. But the more I think about this, the more I'm like, oh yeah, that was good. And so was that. And that was too. But when I watched it, I wasn't enjoying it the way I feel like I should have. Because I remember hearing about this movie 4 years ago at, I think I first heard about it at, I was at a Producers Guild conference where Rogen and Goldman were talking. And they mentioned this movie as like something that's like coming down soon in the pipeline. And it sounded hilarious when they talked about it. And we'll talk about like how the development of the idea in a bit, but it seemed really great and I was very excited to see it. And then the reviews started trickling in, at least from friends. And it just, when I went into the movie, I went in with lower expectations and it just sort of stayed there.
Well, the interesting part, the reviews overall are somewhat high in terms of the critics, but many people, like word of mouth, I don't think is doing as great as it can be.
It's weird. It's backwards from what I think it should be. Like, you would think critics would be just destroying this movie.
Yeah, but I don't know. They obviously like it. But I do think, to your point, I think you're right in the sense, given the brevity of the movie and given the subject matter, I think it's just long enough that if you're on whatever substance, then afterwards it's just long enough where it doesn't feel like too long, and you're like, holy crap, that was an awesome movie, let's go eat.
Yeah.
Or you'll never eat for the rest of your life. You'll be like, oh man. And you'll legit feel like the guy, whatever the kid's name was at the house.
Until you fall asleep.
Yeah.
And then wake up again.
One of the things I do want to talk, we'll take it back to development in one bit, but in terms of story elements, I like that they incorporated the gum, because I thought that was a smart way to get a lot of exposition out in a funny way, because it's Stephen Hawking and he just talks like that, and gum's just been around for years and years.
No, that was a cute character. I liked it because they built this little backstory, like why he was so intelligent. Oh, he stuck to the desk of a scientist for years. It works. It makes sense. And like that whole sequence when they get out into the world is pretty funny. Like you start seeing all the cans that are just dead and crumpled, but they still have the arms and legs and closed eyes.
And the little corn. And
oh my God. The zombie corn.
Yeah, poor corn.
Those little pieces of corn have been through hell.
Which is ironic because we open up the movie with corn singing. It's
yeah,
so happy.
See, here's the other question. Like the ear of corn was singing. Were each of those kernels on the corn alive, or is it only once they're separated then they spring to life?
These are quite
little children.
As Gum says, we live in multiple universes, and we'll never know. But okay, so talk about Let's talk about the development. And now it's interesting that you mentioned that you heard about it. Can you expand upon? Did they talk about anything more in that?
No, it was very brief. They were talking about just producing comedies and what it takes to get things made. And they were talking about Sausage Party, and it's how it was a while ago. I just remember them mentioning it. But it's just been they've had a meeting for Sausage Party. They said every week for like 8 years because they've wanted to make this movie. So they have like whether it's 10 minutes or an hour, they would have had a standing meeting once a week to discuss Sausage Party for a long time.
Yeah, and obviously the subject matter is tough, so I can see why people were very hesitant. It's original and whatnot.
Yeah,
but I could see it as a studio executive, I don't know. I think this is the type of thing that if you see a log line for, I could take a chance on this, and especially with them behind it, I think it makes sense.
I mean, the parody aspect of it is great because what they said about how they came up with the ideas, it's the worst answer to like Secret Life of blank. Like we had Secret Life of Pets. Like, okay, pets, they'll have fun. They like get up to hijinks during the day. They can get lost. Toys, they're as long as we don't think about too much about throwing them in the dumpsters, which even in Toy Story we eventually do. But like, what thing brought to life would be the most horrifying? It's food, because we eat it. Like we destroy it every day, and that was sort of how they came up with the concept.
Yeah, the jumping off point.
They mentioned getting stoned and roaming the aisles of Ralph's just at night with a pad and a pen and paper, just like taking notes on things for this movie.
Only in this business can you legitimately do that and call it work.
Yep. Well, I mean, the way that they develop stuff, part of what they had said in that panel that I went to, and I found it fascinating, like that they keep a writer's room like in motion regardless of how whatever's going on. So even when they were shooting stuff like that Seth Rogen may have been, they would have a trailer set up that was not like just Seth Rogen's trailer, but a writer's room trailer where they could go to have meeting. Like Seth Rogen would like be on lunch break from shooting something, go into the trailer and start doing a writing session for Sausage Party. That's how those guys work. Seth Rogen is like outwardly at least like a huge stoner, but like hearing him and Evan Goldman talk about their process of how they produce movies is pretty fascinating. Those guys work harder than almost anybody. It sounds nuts.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't want to discredit their work, but it's actually, I mean, what I'll say is it's a smart way to do it because oftentimes when you get so sucked into a project, you just start to lose your mind. And so if you can kind of, what's nice about doing it that way, yes, it's a lot of work, but at least you can kind of keep things fresh, so while you're working
douche
on
fresh.
Yes, absolutely. just suck in more stuff.
What was the like? That was such a bizarre decision.
It was. I honestly think that it was just made so it was like, hey, I want to get in your vagina. It was made for that joke and then an entire joke, and it just kept kind of repeating itself of like, no woman's gonna want me in their fucking cooch. I want to be in your cooch.
And Nick Kroll. Nick Kroll plays a douche.
You know what? If you've seen him in the league, it's not a far stretch.
Yeah,
for his character.
Especially because I think it's especially like he played the douche on Parks and Recreation.
This is also true. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe they just, I don't know. It's a chicken and egg theory. Like, did they put in the douche, or they were like, oh, we have Nick Kroll who played a douche. Why don't we make him the douche?
Or they're probably roaming the aisles of Ralph's, be like, they sell douches at Ralph's, which I don't think at least I haven't noticed them at Ralph's.
I can safely say that they probably do. And I can also safely say I've never took notice because I will never want to take notice. So, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, until he like said what he was, I just was like, what the fuck is that thing? I thought it was a toilet plunger.
Yeah, I thought it was that for a little bit too, because there's no label on it really.
No, it
It's
just says like keep fresh. It's something like that. But I think that's what they were trying. They wanted you to be like, what the fuck is that thing?
Oh, poor old dude.
It's got a thing sticking up, which isn't covered, by the way. It's sticking out of the box.
Yeah, hence why I thought it was just toilet bowl cleaner
Yeah.
or whatever. Speaking of that, I thought in the opening, it was a great sort of sequence. I love the parody of it where I'm trying to think of an actual reference, but when everything just like it just all goes to hell. We have basically a singular sound of like it's almost like
The Saving Private Ryan scene that like it was Saving Private Ryan like to the nth degree.
Yeah.
I love the Oreo. Like that's the thing. It's like there's all these moments that I love from it. I don't know why I left in like such a just like not enjoying it mood. Because like the Oreo picking up its other half, just like the guy picking up his arm in Saving Private Ryan.
Do you think I don't know, let me just pose this question, that it was too on the nose with at first the food not understanding what the humans were? Like I don't know how you would like kind of fix that, but by being so obvious.
You mean to the religious analogy?
Yeah, maybe.
No, I think it worked. I think the whole idea of them as like God, as us as gods, because what other like explanation could there be?
Yeah.
It works. Makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Oh, maybe by the end, maybe we won't. I'm just trying to figure out why this movie didn't land in the ways that I was hoping.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was just like I don't know if it was the pace or just the fact that like the jokes that there were those great jokes like at moments, but I think that the jokes didn't come. The jokes became sort of obvious at a certain point. Like I'm a big fan of puns. Like I like making puns in general, but this became just nothing but an hour and a half of food puns. And that gets old pretty quick. I think that's what it comes down to, is that there were good, there are great food puns in there. There are weaker food puns in there, but to do food puns for an entire movie, it just like it gets tired at a certain point.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. And the tough part is like I just, I know them to be better. And that's what I judge them on. Because I don't know, maybe if this was like done by somebody else, I could see it and be like, oh, okay, that might be funny enough and they did a good enough job. But I hold Evan and Seth to a pretty high standard. Yeah,
and this doesn't like detract from my opinion of them as creators in the slightest bit. Like I will still be there immediately to see at whatever their next movie is, because I still trust them as creatives, because they've made too many. Even if you consider this movie 100% a dud, which I don't, they're still in my mind batting like 700.
They're just amazing.
Yeah,
just ask Zack Sneider.
It's tough when you strike out every time. What?
Speaking of the religious side of it, what did you think of that whole backstory? I mean, I thought they explained it pretty well and actually had a good satirical version of religion and why it's necessary.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. It made this like a VeggieTales parody as much as a Toy Story parody. And being Jewish, I didn't really grow up watching much of VeggieTales or any at all, but I know like what it is. It's a bunch of vegetables reenacting the Bible for some reason. I thought it worked really well. It just like it's that clean way into a very serious topic, but using something silly.
Yeah.
A hot dog that wants to fuck a bun.
Was it okay? So let me. Is it the fact, and pun not intended, that these characters were so on the nose that they weren't as fleshed out? Like their goals were very simple and it never went beyond that. Like, in writing, you're supposed to obviously, like if you write the characters just by the dialogue, you're supposed to be able to tell which character it is. And I think they achieved that side of it. But, the taco's main goal was just to get some taco herself. You know what I mean? Like, there was no... It never went beyond that.
Yeah, except for Frank. Like, Frank was the only one who had like he had to face a dilemma where do you keep going with the woman that you love, or do you go off into to search for the answers to everything? It's fine. Search for truth
In a dark aisle. And the amazing liquor aisle, too. Oh, man. Okay.
There were a lot of like great little characters that popped up. I thought it was interesting. I don't know if it was just like, I know that there were some reviewers who found it like borderline offensive at times, and I think it was like,
I mean, it was meant to be.
yeah,
if anything.
it's sort of like it borders on it so much that like it's not at all, because it's so offensive to so many people.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite jokes is all the German mustard killing all the juice.
Yeah, they want to exterminate the juice.
What a pun that was. So I do want to talk about the ending, the Deus Ex Machina ending of just multiple realities, and then that's what it is. Is it because it's not satisfying? Like, that to me was just a weird explanation. You are in an animated feature created by Seth Rogen and Ed Norton, who I didn't know was in the movie.
It's sort of one of those endings where you could tell they didn't know quite how to end it. And they're like, what if they all just start fucking each other? What if that's how we end it? And that's what they did. And then they just like needed some way. They
needed closure.
Yeah, well, that ending, the whole multiple dimensions thing, I thought it was going to be a really fun joke, like Daffy Duck interacting with the penciler joke, like that, because that I think would have been hilarious if these characters jump out into Seth Rogen's like office and start kicking the shit out of him.
That would have been funny.
But instead, it's like this vague setup for a sequel.
Yeah, and they've talked about wanting a sequel, and that they do have ideas, which is strange to me because I can't foresee what that would be at all. I would have accepted it's a very cliched thing, but like where Evan and Seth are just in some studio and they're like high as can be, and then they wake up and be like, oh, dude, that was weird. Yeah, man. You hungry? Yeah, I'm hungry. All right, let's go get food.
I kind of saw it a different way. Because I was trying to make sense of this movie, like after seeing it, because I'm just like, okay, there's a story in here somewhere, but like, where is it? And what I kind of decided in my interpretation of the film is all right, you're doing an allegory to humanity and humanity's involvement with religion. Somebody invents the religion because otherwise we're just all living on this planet and dying. So somebody invents the religion so humanity has hope instead of just living and dying. So the hope is the song, and that's the original form of religion for humanity. Then you take it forward 200 years, and that can be however long you want with food, where so many different interpretations have caused all the different aisles and all the different castes of humans to be against each other for stupid reasons and just little things within the song. And that's shown with the bagels and the falafels basically being the Jews and the Muslims, and then you have all these different things.
That was a lavash bread.
Yeah, the lavash. So you have that going on, and then you get to the point where now people are not, and just with humanity right now people are not really believing in religion too much, but people who are religious don't want to believe that because, like, look, so you're saying that nobody created us, so then there's nothing after we die, which is terrifying again. So people don't want to believe that religion is false or whatever. So you have that going on, and Seth Rogen's character is the non-believer who's trying to spread that. He's like the original atheist in a way. So it gets to the point where, okay, everyone is met with undeniable evidence that religion does not exist. It was invented by humans as a coping mechanism of just not walking on the earth and dying, which in the food is when they realize that they're all eaten and that there's no real great beyond. So what are you going to do when there's no hope? All right, let's just all fuck each other because there's nothing else to do, because, hell, why not just enjoy it in the short term because we're not really committing sins. So that's why they have the food orgy, and now humanity right now is kind of at that point where new generations don't really believe in God, so they're not held to the same values, so they'll just do whatever they want instead of being like, oh, I'll be punished later on for this. And that's why you see so many different things that used to be seen as a sin that now people are more accepting of. So we're all technically just all fucking each other right now. And then you move on to the end of the movie where right now humanity is developing more and more in science. We're trying to discover parallel universes. We're trying to find the meaning of life outside of religion, which could just be a science. Humanity is. This is like their prediction. The end of this movie is like Seth Rogen's high prediction of what reality really is, and we're just invented by other beings somewhere, and we're just a science experiment, and we create a portal to go into a parallel universe, and that's what humanity's kind of going towards, because at the end of the road with where we are as a civilization, we find out religion's fake, we find out that we're created by something, so we're going to be like, all right, well, fuck this place, let's go explore more, so let's go into the portal, per se. So, I mean, it's like, it's a good allegory for the beginnings of religion to now, and then the ending is just kind of their guess at what are we going to do once we kind of really realize that there's no great beyond. Where do we go from here? All right, we go into science, and if we can go into science, let's just explore parallel universes because we're going to die anyway.
You know what? I actually do like your explanation, Steven. I think it's really well thought out. And as you talk about it, here's my problem. I didn't sign up for that movie. You know what I mean? I signed up just to have fun.
But like I like having those two things going, and I think that it is an interesting commentary on, like, basically Seth Rogen is saying, if we didn't have, his accidental statement is like, if we didn't have organized religion, we'd all be having massive orgies, for better or worse. Although, as you say all that, I can't believe that there wasn't a flying spaghetti joke in this movie.
That's true. That would have been a good one. Missed opportunity, people. And that did not get cut out, because the only thing that really got cut out to get the R rating was the pubes on Mr. Bagel or something like that.
There were pubes on the bagel?
Let me look at it one more time. But yeah, there wasn't a lot that they had. They knew so in order to get the R rating as opposed to NC-17, they put in a bunch of stuff that they knew that they would cut out happily. And so where is it? There was definitely pubes, and pubes got cut out. So
I mean, sometimes you got to trim the hedges. You know,
when it's all digital, he joked about how easy it was because it was just digital. So they were just like, all right, trimmed
just
it.
get off that layer.
Yeah.
No, I mean it works on that it brings multiple levels to the table. I think that there was either one too many passes on this script or one too few. Mm-hmm. Being that it was in development for 8 years, I think one too many.
Yeah, you start to overthink, and you're like, does this work? Does this not? Yeah, I can see that. One of the things that I want to talk about that's more recent news is the animators of the movie. And they came out with, Cartoon Brew came out with an article that did a Q&A with a couple of people, about 6 of the animators, and they had various complaints. Number one, there was multiple people that weren't credited.
As many as 30. About half the animation staff.
Very interesting.
Which is a lot.
That is quite a lot. And then obviously the working conditions themselves between overtime and also in many ways being threatened, the fact that if they complained or that they didn't want to work, then they would basically be terminated and someone else would fill their position.
Yeah, I mean, look, I have a lot of friends that work in VFX, and overtime, like insane hours, like 7-day weeks, that's all sort of par for the course. At least at some point when you're doing an animated project like this, it gets down to crunch time. Like if you watch this movie, I get the feeling this was supposed to come out on July 4th. Just like it's all built, like the whole story is built around July 4th, and like I feel like this movie does better if it opens.
Yeah, I think it would have been a nice marketing campaign that way. They pushed it back for 2 reasons. One, because of Popstar. They didn't want to compete with Popstar, and that was early in the year, so they pushed this back. 2, they did need more time for the animation.
Yeah, I figured it was the latter.
Yeah,
but working under those conditions is, as I said, is a sort of normal and it's expected. But not getting paid for overtime is a huge deal. Not only just like bad business practice, but illegal. Yeah. And like whether or not it's true, it's all alleged. But there is a lawsuit going forward, so we'll see what comes to light through that. But I think it was at least from what I read and what I heard, it was the double whammy of that they weren't credited. The people who left to go, there was like an exodus to Sony.
Yeah.
The people that left were not given credit on the movie, despite the fact they put in a lot of work.
Which is that's the easiest form of paying anybody.
Yeah.
Like if someone does work for, like, what's it cost you to put in a credit? Which, by the way, it's not even a big ask because who the hell actually watches those credits? You know what I mean?
People
so from
that are in the movie, like
Yeah.
that worked on it, like they're the ones who want to see their names. Like no one's hurt by putting 30 more credits on a name or 30 more credits on the end of a movie. But it was that, and then in interviews, the director, who's also the COO of this movie, what was
Nitrogen.
Nitrogen. But he was saying that he was like talking very proudly about how they produced what most like DreamWorks would make for $150 million. They did it for 19. And it's pretty. I can't imagine it would be easy to sit by as an animator who was like denied overtime while your boss is bragging about how cheaply he made the thing that you were an artist on. So it was just sort of like saying that publicly is sort of a slap in the face. Like it's one thing if you get a low budget, you're only given a certain amount, but to like say like, yeah, we pulled it off for nothing. It's like you pulled it off on the backs of people who you weren't paying properly.
Well, his quote is,
allegedly,
after working in the LA industry for many years, I could see so much money just needlessly thrown down the toilet in making a lot of these movies. It doesn't have to cost that much money when you're well organized and you have your mind set on the goal and what you want to do, and you just get the job done with a small determined crew. So that's his, I don't necessarily see that as a slap in the face, but I also, there's a disparity. Like, you made this movie for $19 million. I was very shocked by that number.
Yeah.
For it having the animation that it does. Like, Seth's come out and said like they didn't want the animation to be perfect because they just wanted it to be a little bit more funnier, and perfection, I guess, prohibited that. But to me, the animation, like, I'm not much of an animator, so I can't tell the difference of like, $60 million animation versus this. It just still seems like it could have cost $60 million.
The textures were very basic, but they didn't need to be anything more, because to me this was like, again, it was parodying stuff like VeggieTales just as much as it was parodying Pixar. And Pixar is like very intricate details, but like VeggieTales is not. It's all very, very simple. And so like you saw a lot of the textures of things were very smooth. Like you didn't have like a crinkled up potato chip bag. You had a smooth, like very perfectly round bag that looked like, in a way that like most potato chip bags do not look like that. But I'm sure that made it simpler to do, because it was just it was a lot of flat surfaces. And that makes it easier to render and faster render, all that stuff. There were a couple moments where you could tell that they had, and they said this, that the animation is better in some scenes than in others because they put more time and money into certain sequences to distract from the ones that weren't. And there were a couple times where my eyes were sort of blinked, where I was like, that seems like it sort of was jittery. They like hadn't done, like, it was almost like they did 20 frames instead of 24. Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, overall, what I like, it has its tone, and I felt like if I was going into a movie called Sausage Party, I again, if there was more detail, maybe it could have been funnier, but
it wasn't necessary.
Yeah.
The animation, the way that it is totally fine for delivering the movie. Like, this movie lacked for me in a lot of ways, but the animation was not one of them.
I agree. Seth's also been asked a lot about, will there be sort of a director's cut and whatnot, and he hasn't really confirmed it. And I don't know. I think they don't have a lot to go off of to make like a director's cut, and I don't think they need to.
Animation usually doesn't have a lot of deleted scenes. It's too expensive. There would be maybe a director's cut script.
No,
that would be it.
Which most people aren't really willing to read unless you're in the business.
Taking off of the success of the Harry Potter Cursed Child script, Sausage Party, the script, bound in hardcover.
That would be quite interesting to definitely see. In terms of the promotion, right? They, like I said, I do think that there's so many people that thought this was going to be a different type of movie.
They cut a really good trailer.
Yeah.
The second trailer I think was pretty like much what
More
the
on the
movie
nose.
was.
Yeah.
It definitely cut the best like moments together. The first movie, that's probably why the song, like when the mustard starts like swearing so quickly, that's why it threw me off, because I was expecting him to play, like the trailer plays that game for like 45 seconds of like, oh, it's these cute foods and their
ambitions.
And they're clean cut, and then it like turns into craziness. I thought I thought that game was going to go on longer. Instead of diving in head first, which I think is like they lost a little bit of the magic of the concept by not spending more time in that world where everything is good.
Yeah, it was because they did start, it had the makings of that, where the guy's walking in, the lights get turned on, the sunshine. Oh,
Yeah.
well, everyone up. Tomorrow's Red, White, and Blue Day.
Like if the song had just been like actually like a prayer song, it would have like painted that picture. And I think even when it goes wrong, it would have been the same. But it was that like that's it started with the swearing, and then it was we're gonna exterminate the juice, which is a fun joke, but like I felt it was in the wrong place.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. I think it would have been. I think a place that it could have worked was as soon as they go into that Saving Private Ryan moment, because that's when things start to go really bad, and you can have what was her name, Kristen Wiig, Brenda. You can have Brenda like start the swearing of like you piece, like whatever, you got us into this mess, or like yelling at douche and whatever. That's when everyone's motives really come out.
Yeah. Also, I feel like there was like a missed opportunity. There's Brenda, like she's a bun, Bonnie, like Bonnie the bun.
Yeah,
I don't know.
definitely. I agree there. All right. Well, overall, I mean, it was on par to make 20 to 25 million. It came out making 31 million opening weekend, so better than expected.
Yeah,
certainly for comedy.
They cut good trailers. Like, I know a lot of people are excited to see this movie.
That they were, and whatnot. So, and like I said, it's oddly enough not as highly rated with audiences, but critics are really enjoying it. So that's the strange part about all of it.
83% on Rotten Tomatoes.
It's so strange.
That's insanely high. Like it would have been, even if it had gotten fresh, it'd been like, I guess I see. I think it's because critics really latched onto the fact that it had this very heavy commentary on organized religion, which is something that like people who are critiquing movies or like analyzing movies, they're like, oh yeah, it has a deeper message. And it's like, and they don't usually like the stoner comedies anyway. So it's such a bizarre thing. They loved this stoner comedy.
Maybe everyone at the critic screening had brownies. Like they passed out some food and they didn't know it was laced with anything.
They tricked them. They melted some weed butter onto the popcorn.
Yeah.
And they passed it out as they went in.
That would have definitely been interesting. Any last thoughts about this movie? I don't think we need to beat a dead horse.
No, I think I've said it. I've said my piece on it. I actually feel like part of me wants to, like, when this is available on like cable and stuff, like I want to watch this again, just like casually, like not as like I'm gonna have to review this, but just like watch it and see what pieces I liked from it, because I think there are things that, like, there were cute jokes, there were cute moments.
I think this is very much one of those movies that you have to kind of see with your friends, and I think it's a great sort of background movie that once everyone's seen, you can kind of just be like, oh, that's the scene with blah blah, and everyone can have their moment and laugh about it, and then get sort of back to whatever they were doing while it plays in the background.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I guess my only other final thought is like at the end, like this is like where like my brain is just like weirder than us because like one of those like I had logic problems with Inside Out, which which I could go into at length, but I won't here. But like when they are all like having sex at the end, I got confused. I'm like, wait, none of these things have genitalia. Why are they doing it in a human fashion?
Listen, you can't think about that too much because once then like, I mean, ultimately, what is the sausage and the bun? Are they gonna have a baby? What baby are they gonna have? Is it gonna be a sausage or is it gonna be a bun?
Also, if you've ever like opened up a hot dog bun, like she's just open now. There's no like pushing it back together at that point.
That's it. Yeah.
Also, what happens when they all expire in like 2 weeks?
Well, that's the biggest mystery of all.
Like Frank starts getting moldy.
Yeah, I'm no longer fresh. Well, that's why you have the douche. And we'll leave you on that note. Steven, any final thoughts from you in the booth?
Nope.
All right, good to know. Well, let us know what you guys think in the comments section. Overall, an enjoyable movie to a degree, but not necessarily too much to talk about. It is kind of more on the surface of things. So,
did you know that this musical number was done by the same guy who did Aladdin and The Little Mermaid? Alan Menken put this song together. Which, if you listen to it, you can hear it.
Yeah, I can see that. Especially The Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
Kind of the opening of it. Yeah.
Super weird.
Interesting. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us. Leave a comment in the comment section below. We've got other movies coming down the pipeline. Pete's Dragon, very much a different movie than this one. We've got War Dogs coming up, which is at least a little bit more similar to this. And we've done many, many other movies in the past, so check those out. We'll see you guys next time on Anatomy of a Movie. Bye.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the rest of the Anatomy of a Movie staff, we would like to thank you for listening and subscribing to the show. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to email or tweet us. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been Anatomy of a Movie.